So are the Secrets of Dumbledore worth learning? Let's find out now. Accio Review! Hey everyone, this is David Stark from Watch or Pass, and today I'm going to talk to you about the newest movie in the Harry Potter franchise, I guess the Harry Potter prequel franchise, Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. It comes to theaters on April 15th, 2022. It continues the storyline that was started in Fantastic Beasts and then had Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald, and now we have Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. So my hot take is I think you should rent it. Look, I like being back in the world of Harry Potter. I like Harry Potter. I like the Wizarding World. It had some really good effects, and I really like the darker tone. But overall, this story just kind of has the same issues I had with the first prequel sequel, the Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. It just feels like this story is kind of wholly unnecessary, and it feels like they are trying to kind of shoehorn this Newt character and his like band of friends into these later stories in Hogwarts history. So the whole story felt kind of unnecessary. It was slow and it was pretty long. But I'm going to get into that in a little bit. I'm going to tell you a little about the movie, a few things I liked, a few things I didn't like, and go into the ending. So as you can imagine, there will be spoilers. I will try to keep the spoilers to the ending part. There might be some minor ones before that, but the major spoilers I'll try to keep to the ending section so you can watch this. Until then, when I get to the ending section, if you don't want to know what finds out, turn this off now. So in Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore, you have another adventure with Dumbledore. So I guess if you remember the last movie, we found out that there is this powerful wizard kid named Credence who everyone was kind of looking for. At the very end of that movie, you found out why. You found out that he is a Dumbledore. Now, I don't remember from the movie, on a recap, it said that we found out that he was actually Dumbledore's half-brother. Don't think that's accurate according to this movie. Maybe they switched it, who knows. That movie also had Johnny Depp that they quickly switched into this movie for Mads Mikkelsen, so maybe they just made some quick changes to tighten up the story. But in any event, at the end of that movie, you find out that Credence is a Dumbledore and that he's now working with Grindelwald. Grindelwald escapes from prison. He kind of flees. It had an overall darker tone. So now in The Secrets of Dumbledore, Grindelwald is still kind of gathering his army, kind of consolidating power, and you don't really know why, but you know that something bad is going to happen. And so the film is about Newt again and some of his friends and some new characters that we meet banding together to stop Grindelwald in this very convoluted, long, secret plot. And in that journey, we find out some more secrets about Dumbledore. So, things I liked about this movie. The first is, hey, you know what? It's Harry Potter. You get wizards again. I like Harry Potter. I like wizards. I like this world. So it's fun to be back in there. You get, some of the things that you have grown to love. You get some Quidditch stuff. You go back to Hogwarts. You get the Harry Potter music. Less of all of that than I would have anticipated, but it's still there. Plus, you've got magic and wands and just some fun characters. The second thing I really liked is the darker tone. This film series, especially starting with Crimes of Grindelwald, seems to have a much darker, more ominous tone. I don't know if that's because maybe the Harry Potter audience has kind of grown up, and so they're trying to cater to that, or if this is just a darker story. But I did like that the overall tone of the film felt a little bit darker, a little bit more mature. That being said, the darker tone, right? It is a PG-13 movie and it feels more like a PG-13 movie. So just make sure that your kid's a little bit older if you're going to take them to it. There are some pretty dark stuff that happens at the start and a few kind of darker, scarier scenes. So if you got younger kids, this might not be the movie for you. And the last thing I really liked are the effects. Look, it's a Harry Potter universe movie, like a Wizarding World movie, right? It's not Harry Potter, it's the Wizarding World. And it has a lot of really good magical effects. And Warner Brothers always goes all out for those effects, and they are really well done. Like the effects in this film are phenomenal. They're magical. They are everything you would hope they would be. Unfortunately, the movie is not everything I would hope it to be. Things I didn't like. The first is, I don't know, this feels wholly unnecessary. And maybe my issue is that you've got Newt and the kind of band of people that we met at the start of Fantastic Beasts kind of shoehorned into this story. It feels like, I don't know, I don't have no insight in this, but it feels like Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them did really well. And they were like, everyone likes Eddie Redmayne because how can you not like Eddie Redmayne? Everyone wants to keep him in there. So they kind of shoehorned him into the Crimes of Grindelwald story. And now it feels like they're shoehorning him and some of his, friends that he made along the way into this Secrets of Dumbledore story. Because Newt doesn't really feel like he fits with this story and his friends don't really fit with the story, but they keep kind of forcing that into it. So, I mean, I think maybe the movie itself is not wholly unnecessary, but it feels like some of these characters do not need to be here. I feel like this whole series would have been better as like a series of Rogue One type stories, like Star Wars stories, Harry Potter stories, where we learn different aspects of the past and don't have to have a continuity of characters throughout, because it does feel like they are just kind of shoehorned in. Like everyone kind of like admires certain characters and you're like, I don't really know why. Second thing I didn't love is the convoluted story. Part of that is by design. The story is supposed to be confusing for a specific reason in the movie, but that also means that the movie's a little confusing. You've got a story that kind of goes in lots of different directions for sometimes unnecessary reasons, and then kind of relates back. You've got some very convenient aspects that happen during the story that make it so that this quest can go on. Look, maybe if I had just watched Harry Potter movies without reading the books, I would have the same criticism, because I don't know, maybe those are a little bit tough to follow if you don't have the books. But I didn't read the books here, and the whole story seems to be long, complicated, with few sparse reveals and some very convenient aspects. The third thing I did not love is this movie is slow. It is very slow. Like, I liked being back in the Wizarding World, but it takes a long time to get there. I timed it for like the first major thing that happened, other than kind of the initial scene. It's like 45 minutes until we have another kind of exciting Harry Potter-ish scene. And a lot of that is kind of establishing the characters and then some of the politics about it. It just, if the movie progresses at a measured pace, and I was hoping for something a little more exciting. And the last thing I did not love is this film kind of tries to relate to modern times. I believe there's some totalitarian overtones. There's some like aspects about the peaceful transition of power. It doesn't feel like it handles it that well. It feels like they were kind of tacked on. I don't know. Maybe I'm just like overly sensitive to that kind of stuff right now, but it feels like this movie tried to kind of relate to modern times and didn't do a very good job. The totalitarian aspects, they're mostly just kind of nameless, faceless people. There's kind of some lip service fed to some of these ideas, but not really much more behind that. It does feel like they were kind of like thrown in. I was like, oh, let's have this be more relatable to our current world, and it didn't feel like it kind of hit. So going into the ending, and like I said, this is where there are going to be spoilers. If you don't want to know anything about the ending, turn this off now. So first off, what are Dumbledore's secrets? Well, you'll find that out soon. The first secret we find is that he takes his tea with 1 cube of sugar. In the very first scene, he's having tea. He has 1 cube of sugar. So there you go. There's one of Dumbledore's secrets. We also find out Dumbledore also tells Grindelwald in an early scene that he kind of followed him and stayed with him because he loved him. I thought it was good. I'm glad that they kind of put that tidbit of information into this movie, because I know J.K. Rowling kind of released that, but I didn't really get that from the books. So it's nice that that is kind of now part of this wizarding world. We also find out that Dumbledore and Grindelwald made a blood pact. That they kind of do, it's kind of like blood brothers. They can each put a they each put a little bit of blood into this like pendant and cast a spell on it, and that means that I thought that neither of them could like hurt each other, that neither of them could even think about like killing each other. If they did, then this thing would, give them pain. I don't know if Grindelwald had one. I know Dumbledore had one, and it seems to affect Dumbledore. It doesn't seem to affect Grindelwald as much in this movie. So meanwhile, Newt travels to this secluded mountain to see the birth of this animal that looks kind of like a scaled deer. And while he's watching it, it's this beautiful scene, and all of a sudden, boom, he gets attacked. And who is it? It's Credence and some of Grindelwald's followers. They kill this like mother scaled deer, and they incapacitate Newt, and they take this like scaled deer thing. And Newt is pretty upset after this. But then he finds out that, oh, there's another one. Conveniently, there's another scaled deer. You don't really know what the point of this is. It just seems like this weird, random scene. It's important later. So what Grindelwald does with this, and this is one of those scenes I was like, ooh, you got to be careful with this with kids. He gets this deer. He kind of looks at it. It's really cute. And then he just like slits its throat. Eek. And in the blood from that deer, you see some like vision. So there's something about either this deer or his powers that lets him see kind of aspects of the future. We also around here find another one of the secrets of Dumbledore. Credence, was played by Ezra Miller, is a Dumbledore. We found that at the end of Crimes of Grindelwald. I forgot. So we find out again here. So Grindelwald is obviously plotting something, and Dumbledore wants to stop it. So he gathers a ragtag group of people, including Newt, who, hey, he's been in all the adventures. He might as well be in this one. Newt's brother, played by Callum Turner. His brother's name is Theseus. And look, I like Callum Turner. I liked him as Theseus in this movie. And actually, the weird thing is that Eddie Redmayne and Callum Turner, they could be brothers. Like, they look close enough alike that you could say, okay, they might be brothers. So I thought that was a good casting call. We also have a new wizard, Professor Hicks, who joins. You have Yusuf, who is this wizard from like an old bloodline that has like 2 lines in the entire film. Like, he seems like a cool guy, but he doesn't say pretty much anything the entire movie. And then you have Newt's assistant and Jacob. Jacob is the Muggle who was in the first movie and kind of keeps being in these movies. So some stuff happens with charging Grindelwald with crimes. There's like 30 minutes of stuff. I'm just going to skip that. Eventually, you find out that Grindelwald is cleared of all the crimes that he was going to be charged from. The German Ministry of Magic clears him of charges, and they also allow him to run in this kind of election for the next Minister of Magic. So the Ministry of Magic is a 2-way race between these 2 wizards that you basically learn nothing about. You see one and then you see the other. And now Grindelwald is in. It's a 3-way race. So now there's a little bit of concern, like maybe Grindelwald will win. Maybe his like hope to kind of cleanse the world of Muggles will become a reality. So eventually we also find out that Grindelwald wants Credence to kill Dumbledore. He thinks that he can. I don't really think he can. Like, Dumbledore is real powerful, but they do have a fight. Like, Credence comes to Dumbledore, and it's this really cool scene, like in the middle of, I think, London, maybe New York. I'm not 100% sure where they are, but they're in like a city. Credence comes in and like starts throwing magic, and then Dumbledore throws magic, and they like kind of destroy the scene. It's like, oh, this is really cool. And then you like find out they're actually in like a dream world, I guess, or like a parallel dimension. They like have moved into this other part where they can freely shoot magic spells at each other and doesn't affect anyone around them, which, hey, it's a nice story effect. I didn't love it because I was like, that makes all the consequences of them using like magic out in public and kind of the dire results of them, trying to fling spells left and right out in these crowded areas. It kind of nullifies all that. It makes it feel kind of cheap. Like, I would have liked it if it was more of like, hey, we're gonna have to figure out what to do after we destroyed the city block and all these buildings are destroyed and maybe there's some Muggles hurt. Like, we have to come in and clean it all up, rather than like, okay, we're going to use this magic world to fight, and then boom, now we're done and no one is the wiser. So after the fight, Dumbledore does tell Credence that, hey, what Grindelwald said wasn't true. We didn't abandon you. We didn't know about you, but he's right. You are a Dumbledore. And that's kind of all we find out. Now, earlier, the Dumbledore crew tried to kind of stop the Ministry of Magic from clearing Grindelwald of the crimes. And at that point, there was a lot, like a kind of a debacle. Some people got arrested, some people got broken up. And so there's a lot of set pieces to try to get everyone back together. It's some fun set pieces. There's some interesting ones. Like, again, this feels like a very convoluted plot because they kind of all have to go through and free each other from this debacle to all come back together. And eventually, most of the people who make it back to Hogwarts. Now, we also find out that the chaos that happened here was kind of by design. Grindelwald is able to see some aspects of the future, so they're trying to like use all these different plots to confuse him. But it also makes for a fairly confusing movie. So now we find out what this scaled deer thing is. We find out it's a chillin, and that it can see into your soul, and it will only bow to someone who is pure of heart. And so that's kind of how they used to pick the old Minister of Magic. They would have a chillin go before the candidates, and the one it bowed to was the like correct one. And we also learn another secret, another Dumbledore secret. Credence is actually Aberforth's son. So there was a summer when Albus Dumbledore and Grindelwald were going to leave to go on their adventures together. And during that summer, Aberforth also fell in love with someone. The person that he fell in love with was sent away. I guess they didn't see her after that. Credence was the result of that summer fling. And Aberforth didn't tell Albus about Credence because Albus was a bad brother. Okay. We also find out that Credence is dying. He is, I thought they said obscurial. It's something like that. He essentially never kind of learned to control his magic. And so his magic kind of grows darker and eventually poisons him. I guess Albus and Aberforth's sister Ariana had that, and that was kind of some of the things that caused issues in their family early on. Well, Credence has that as well, but he seems to be able to control his magic pretty well in some of these duels. So I don't really know how they get away with him saying he can't express his magic right, but I guess he does. Maybe he can't control it. Maybe it's just overpowering him, so he's able to use it, but he can't like keep it in his body. I don't know. Anyways, we find out that Credence is dying. And more secrets. We also find out what happened to Albus's sister Ariana. Dumbledore and Grindelwald were about to leave to go on their adventures, and Aberforth didn't want them to leave. Their argument got heated, and eventually wands were drawn. Now, in the movie, I thought Dumbledore said it was only like him and his brother Aberforth who had their wands drawn. In like online, it says that all three of them had their wands drawn: Aberforth, Albus, and Grindelwald. We'll just go with the movie version. And maybe that's wrong. Maybe I didn't hear that Grindelwald also do was wrong. But eventually, they had wands drawn. Ariana came down, and something happened. Someone's spell went awry, and it hit Ariana and killed her. And there's a weird line here where Dumbledore is like, I don't know if it was my spell that did it, but maybe it was. It doesn't matter now. It kind of still matters. Whose spell it was is important, although I think he's trying to say like maybe they were all wrong and it was an accident. Maybe that's what he's saying, but it still kind of matters. So meanwhile, after we learn all these secrets, Grindelwald uses some sort of like magic bath to revive his Chillin. And you don't know why, but his Chillin like goes into the bath and then it comes out. And so now back at Hogwarts, the plan is coming to fruition, and you finally get some Harry Potter music. Maybe it was earlier, but this is the first time I noticed like that Harry Potter sound blaring as they're getting ready to do their master plan. So what happens is, in order to kind of safeguard the next Minister of Magic vote count, they're taking them to Bhutan, which is this, well, you know what Bhutan is, but they have this kind of like sacred temple that they are going to do the final count at. Now, Dumbledore's crew wants to get their Chillin to Bhutan so that it can do the proper ritual to kneel before the right person. They think that Grindelwald is going to try to put his thumb on the scale there. So in order to do that, they have 5 cases made up that look just like Newt's case. I mean, one of them is Newt's case, and the other 4 are replicas. So right now, we've got 5 people who are going on this mission. Dumbledore and Jacob are together. So Jacob is going to have 1. Newt is going to have 1. Theseus, Newt's brother, is going to have 1. Professor Hicks is going to have 1. And then Newt's assistant is going to have 1. So each of them picks up their case and transports to Bhutan to try to climb up to make it to the very top so they can use this case. And the idea is it's kind of like a shell game. One of them has the Chillin, the others are distractions. And so hopefully everyone will be distracted by all these cases and the Chillin will be able to make it. But no one knows who has the Chillin. So they head out on this quest, and at the ceremony, and a lot of Grindelwald's like followers are around observing this, and it's really weird because like Grindelwald didn't have a ton of followers, and now all of a sudden he has like essentially an army of wizards that all look the same. They're all in like black trench coats with like black hats, and they're everywhere watching what's going on. It felt kind of tacked on. Like all of a sudden now he has an army and they all look generic and they're all kind of coordinated helping this out. Earlier Grindelwald had like a very few followers, and now I don't know, maybe like a week, maybe it was longer than that, maybe it was like we'll say generously a week. Now he has like an entire army. We also find out that Grindelwald's followers are pretty weak because a couple of the Dumbledore, well, I'm just going to call them the Dumbledore army just for ease. They get confronted by Grindelwald's people, and each of them takes out like 10 of Grindelwald's wizards. It's like one of Dumbledore's people is worth like 10 of Grindelwald's wizards, but there's a lot of Grindelwald wizards somehow. And eventually 4 of the cases are captured in various ways. But each of those cases has a curse. So when the Grindelwald people open it up, curses pop out. One of them has like books that fly out and like attack the people. One of them has Quidditch implements that like come out and attack the people. One of them has a bunch of pastries that like come out and attack the people. And one of them is Newt's, and that just kind of disintegrates into nothing. But we find out that they are too late. All this subterfuge was for naught, because so up at the podium, the German Minister of Magic pulls out the fake Chillin, the like dead Chillin that is now, I guess, a zombie Chillin. And he says, okay, this will decide who it is. And the Chillin, goes to each of the candidates and bows before Grindelwald. So Grindelwald is the pure of heart one. He's not. And so he is the Minister of Magic. He gets up there and calls up Jacob for some reason. So he gets up there and calls up Jacob and says, this man tried to kill me with no magic. He did that. He tried to do that earlier. and tried to marry a witch and pollute our blood because remember, Jacob is in love with Queenie. They're trying to get married. There were some issues with why they couldn't earlier, but at some point they resolved it during this movie. And so Grindelwald is trying to make an example of Jacob. So then Grindelwald curses Jacob with the Cruciatus curse, which I thought is an unforgivable curse. Maybe that happens after this, but it seems like that would be kind of a big shock if you're like Minister of Magic used an unforgivable curse on Jacob. It's okay. Grindelwald then says our war with the Muggles begins today. So it has like this ominous overtone. And then a phoenix flies above. It's Dumbledore's phoenix. I think his name is Fox. And Credence then appears and says, he's lying to you. That creature is dead. He points to the Chillin. And that felt really weird. Like, okay, so now Credence is like betraying Grindelwald. He had followed him pretty intently before, and he was still following him during this time. And now all of a sudden he's like, okay, conveniently, I'm going to betray you. I'll get into that in a second. So Newt pops up and says, yes, he killed that Chillin and bewitched it. There were actually 2 Chillin, and I had the other, but I don't have it right now. And Grindelwald's like, well, where's your proof? And then a hooded person walks up. We'd seen her earlier. We didn't know who she was. Walks up to the podium, and lo and behold, it is Newt's assistant. And she was like the one with the Chillin the entire time. Everyone else was a distraction. And she brings the real Chillin up and opens it up, and that cute little Chillin pops up, and everyone's like, oh, it's so cute. The German Minister of Magic's like, no, 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 this is the real Chillin. Like, look. And then the Chillin like dies in its arms. Very convenient. Like the Chillin just lasted long enough to crown Grindelwald, and now it's dead. But don't fear, we have the new Chillin. So the new Chillin walks around and finds Dumbledore. Wouldn't you know it? And he bows to Dumbledore. We all love Dumbledore. He might have killed his sister, so I don't know if he's pure of heart, but he seems pretty pure of heart. Dumbledore says, like, hey, I'm honored, but there's someone else. And so the Chillin like takes the hint and moves around and goes to the lady candidate. There were 2 original candidates. One was a female witch in orange. The other was like a male wizard in, like, I think white, essentially. So the Chillin goes to the lady, bows before her. Yay, she's the new Minister of Magic. And look, I don't remember her name because she didn't have that much screen time. There was like maybe 2 references to her the entire time. So after this, Grindelwald is angry, so he shoots a curse at Credence because Credence betrayed him. And that appears to be the death curse. But wouldn't you know it, zoom, 2 magic spells. I think it was 2. I think Aberforth and Dumbledore both cast their spells and intercepted the death curse. And then you have like a power struggle here. And so they're all like, the magic is sitting there. And while the spells are kind of fighting it out, the pendant that Dumbledore has that prevents him from attacking Grindelwald slowly disintegrates. Seems convenient. After that falls off, Dumbledore and Grindelwald kind of go into another alternate dimension and have a fight. Again, this is that weird thing where they can like go appear in other alternate like slip universes and fight, and no one is the wiser. Aberforth doesn't come in though. It's just Dumbledore and Grindelwald. So they have a duel. They fight to a standstill, which I thought was kind of weird because I'm pretty sure Grindelwald has the Elder Wand here, so he should be able to win. I think, like, maybe I'm mistaken here, but I thought he had the Elder Wand. I thought he got it in the last movie. So A, his curse should have hit Credence because it should have won. B, his fight with Dumbledore should have ended with him beating Dumbledore because he has the Elder Wand and they fought one-on-one. It wasn't like a weird trick thing where Dumbledore like outsmarted him or something. Like, no, they fought like straight up magic one-on-one and fought to a standstill. So, but anyways, after the standstill, Dumbledore leaves and Grindelwald, says, who will love you now, Dumbledore? You're all alone. So now that we have a new Minister of Magic and she's a good person, everyone changes. Before they were all like, gung-ho, Grindelwald, we're going to fight the Muggles. Now they're like, yay, everything's great. We love everyone. But they don't like Grindelwald, so they all start to kind of confront Grindelwald. And Grindelwald looks at them and says, I was never your enemy then or now. And then he transports away. Go to Credence. Credence is dying. Aberforth is with him. And Credence says, did you ever think of me? And Aberforth says, always, come home. Which, I don't know, like, he didn't really seem to reach out to him much. They had the mirror. There was this mirror that they were able to communicate with. So maybe Aberforth is a better father than we thought. But anyways, he's holding Credence. Credence dies. This felt very weird. This felt like they were just trying to write out Ezra Miller, which I think they probably were. And so Credence, he had like all the screen time last time. This time he has a few appearances, he has very few lines, and he all of a sudden magically gets sick and dies. So this really feels like they kind of did the bare minimum with Ezra Miller so they could kind of get him out of the story. So now we have the next scene, and yay, Queenie and Jacob are getting married. It's this cute little wedding at the Kowalski Bakery. There are a few guests. It's a small wedding. Newt is the best man, and Tina, Katherine Waterston, who was in the earlier movies and has like 2 appearances in this one, is the maid of honor. So she shows up. Newt and her have a cute little moment. They're happy. We also find out that Callum Turner and Professor Hicks are kind of a thing, which is good. I mean, that fits. So Newt's outside getting ready for his speech, and he looks out and he sees Dumbledore sitting across from the bakery. So he goes up to him, kind of a nice moment. Dumbledore says, I want to thank you, Newt. I couldn't have done it without you. Then Newt says, I'd do it again, by the way, should you ask. And then he kind of like awkwardly goes in, because Newt is awkward. And he goes in to do the wedding, and Dumbledore sits outside at the bus stop watching for like a few minutes and then walks away, which is, I don't know, like Dumbledore, just go inside. Say hi to everyone. Everyone loves you. You were just with them the entire movie. Go to the wedding and just sit there and watch the wedding, and you can go do your other stuff later. But he gets up after a few minutes and just walks away. And that's the movie. That is Fantastic Beasts, The Secrets of Dumbledore. It's coming to theaters on April 15, 2022. Like I said, I think it's a rental. It has some interesting moments. It kind of has Harry Potter references. It continues the story. But for all the reasons I said earlier, I think it's a rental. So thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.